Hi, and thank you so much for joining me for today's process video. And once again today I'm using Vicki Boutin's new collection for 49 and Market, Curiosities in Willow Grove, and I'm documenting another photo from our trip to Northern Ireland towards the end of this summer. So this photo is printed just under 4x6. I used my notes app on my iPhone to transfer the photo into and then print from there, so it prints it with a slight white border, and it also means that it's not cut off on either side, because I find that when I print 4x6 quite often it's cut off. So I've just cut a 7-inch circle from the orange foundations paper there, and I've traced the inside of the circle, and I'm now using the Arctic Blitz, I think that's what it's called, dye ink from 49 and Market, to blend around that circle, just so that I have a halo around the edge. I absolutely love blue and orange together, so this is the look I was going for. Amelia's got her blue jeans and a grey hoodie on, and I've got a black dress on, so this will work really nicely with the colours in the photo. The rest of it is orange. So we were going back to Bangor from Belfast, and normally we would use Great Victoria train station, but that has now closed and been replaced by Belfast Grand Central. So you still go through as if you're going to Great Victoria, but then as you walk through the back and past Victoria, you get into Grand Central. And on our way through, we saw this Aperol Spritz advertising. So because we were a little bit merry after all the drinking around Belfast, we had a photo taken. So that's what this is. But I thought it'd be really nice to document just a picture of me and Amelia. And that's what I'm doing. So I've matted the photo onto white cardstock just to get a nice white border. I don't know why I trimmed it off in the first place. And then I'm trimming it down after sticking it onto this. It's sort of a purple navy paper, and it just works really nicely as a photo mat. So I'm going to distress the edges of the circle and also of that photo mat, and then I want to create like an L shape around the photo. So I'll be pulling in bits and pieces from this collection to do that. So it's got a herringbone on this paper, so I wanted to make sure that that was straight up and down, so I was just a little bit careful when positioning that circle so that it is how I want it to sit on the page. And then my photo, I'm not sure, I don't think it is offset in the end. I was thinking about putting it at a slight angle, but I'm not very good with angles when it comes to scrapbooking, or at least intentional angles anyway. So I found in the laser cut this piece that says Days Full of Magic, and I thought that would work really nicely with this photo, so I'm starting with that. And then I knew that there were these lovely strips of paper in the laser cuts here, so I've pulled out this one with the numbers along it, and it has that zigzag stitch, and that is actually a laser cut, so you can feel the points of the zigzag. It's really pretty. 12 inches was too long, so I've just ripped the end off, and then I pull the other piece with the lace on for the bottom, and again did the same thing. I love this triangular mat, but I don't want to use the whole piece. I want to save some for a future layout, so I'm just going to cut that in half and then just tuck half into the left, and that will be my mat for some embellishments later on. So the layout's starting to take shape. I'm happy with how things are looking. I'm just going to go into the 6x8 paper to find something to add as another layer on the left-hand vertical strip. And straight away I spot this star paper. So because it's on navy, I think that will work nicely. So I just tore a strip, but then had to pull some of the white. A bit too much of the white core was showing, so I'm just pulling a little bit of that off. And then that's going to sit to the left, just like that. So I'm going to attach the laser cut to it, just building my layers, and then I can stick it down once I'm happy with the positioning of everything. So just using a bit of my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to glue this piece down. These laser cuts really are incredible. I can't believe that nobody else has jumped on the bandwagon yet, really. Well, I suppose Art and Creative Studio are doing it, aren't they? But I don't know, there's just something magical about the ones that Vicki's designed. They're very intricate, but just work beautifully. So now working on that bottom strip, and I'm just going to adhere that to the vertical strip as well, and make sure that the photo's in the right place, and then I can get that whole mat stuck down. Just deciding where to put that word strip. It's going to go there where I put it before. So just using some Nouveau Deluxe adhesive just to get that stuck down. And then I can stick the whole mat down. Now, when I stick this down, at first I was watching the video back and I thought, oh, why did I stick it so far down on that circle? It should have been up a little bit more. But in fact, when the whole thing's done, I'm really pleased that I did pull it down so much so that some of the orange circle was still showing, because I think most of it would have been covered had I not done that. So everything works out in the end, doesn't it? So these are the chipboard pieces from the collection. Loads of fantastic titles here, but I spotted one on the back of the packet that said "Here for it," and that's what I wanted to use. So that's going to go just above that word strip there on the right hand side, and there were some little chipboard stars, so I just pulled 3 of those out in like an orange, navy and mustard colour, and just dot those around that title. So now into the journaling bits. Just to see what I can find in here. I want a bulldog clip for the top of the photo, and I spot that ticket straight away, so that's going to go next to it. And that fills that top left hand corner really nicely for me. So coming in with some foam pads to add underneath my title, just to raise it up and give it a bit of shadow and definition there. It's also going over quite a few layers, so it doesn't hurt to have it raised up. And when I pull the backing off and position it down, it sticks really well to the photo. So I would have probably moved it a tiny bit, but it was there to stay. So I just accepted that that's where it was going to sit. So I'm just going to glue those little chipboard stars down now and then carry on. So I still didn't really know what I wanted to add to that left-hand corner where the 2 papers join on top of that lovely laser cut piece. But I did find this word strip that says this is just a chapter, not the whole story, and I thought that worked nicely underneath the photo. So I've added that, and then I'm just going to glue these bits down because I know that that's definitely where they're going to stay. It's just that bottom left-hand corner that's causing me a bit of angst, I suppose, at this point. I still haven't fully looked through these packets. I just tend to pull until I find something that suits and then leave it there. So I should probably have a proper look through to see what there is available for me. But I don't spend hours and hours on scrapbook layouts. I think I would just get bored and annoyed if I did that. So I tend to just find something that works and then stick with that. So I've just added some yellow wax twine through that bulldog clip, and then that's going to trail down the right hand side through that little tag that I've just added there. And again, that's just a layering piece. It's not really to add anything more than just another layer behind the photo for interest. And I'm just adding a few dots of Nouveau Deluxe adhesive just to hold those strands in place. I do use the glue lid shortly to hold it down. Just trimming off the end of that. So there we go, there's that glue lid, and that works really nicely as an anchor. So now into the Icon and Ephemera pack. And I'm just going to have a look through this and see what I can find. I find this black and white feather, but it definitely jars too much for me. So I'm back into the laser cuts, and I find a lovely orange feather with no white border. So that works much better along with the photo. So I'm going to use that. And then I find this vine is very delicate, so it does take me a little time to pull it out of the packet, and you can barely see it there with everything else going on in the background, but it does add that certain something to that cluster that I've got there. So that goes on top of the feather, and I just add glue strategically. I don't want to glue it down absolutely flat to the page, but I do want it to survive because it's quite delicate. So just adding glue to that, and then I decide I want a little butterfly. And there's a lovely orange and pink, well, it's sort of yellowy orange and pink one here, but I didn't like the white border, so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time cutting the white border. Now, unfortunately, I do cut the butterfly's little antenna off, but it doesn't matter because it's going on so much dark stuff. It's fine. You don't really notice that they're not there now. So just gluing that down and adding foam pads to the wings so that it looks like it's flying. And then you can see that oak leaf that I've pulled out and that I'm adding here now. I just wanted to add that to the cluster as well, and that works really nicely behind that butterfly. So now for my journaling, and I'm just going to tell the story that I've told you really, where we were and what we were doing. So So just adding my guidelines, and then there I am just using a black roller ball just to get that journaling down. And then adding these little stars that I pulled out of one of the ephemera packs, just little gold stars in 3 places around the page. Again, gluing that twine in place just to try and hold it where I want it to stay. And then I wanted to add some gold splatters using my gold watercolour paint, but I still wasn't finished. I thought I wanted a little bit more added to the layout, so you'll see in a minute. I do come back in with some other bits. So I find a little wooden title from one of our new wood pieces, and it says more of this, so I think that's going to work really nicely along the bottom there. And then a tab going to the side of the photo just to add my date. So I'm just using a scrap of white card to roll a date, stamp my date down, and then I'll add that to that craft tab, and that's just cut from my EK Success tab punch. So just making sure I'm happy with the positioning and the date isn't too hidden in the background. And here's that wood piece that I was talking about. I think this might be the Autumn Wood Words that one's from. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope I've provided more inspiration using this beautiful collection, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.